Us now. Ajay, good morning. Thank you for joining us. If I look at the headline is that 25%, 26% tariffs have been slapped on India. For some of the unorganized categories, gems and jewelry, textiles, home linen, bed sheets, can 26% tariff really make them globally uncompetitive?
In fact, when you are talking about a global competition, it has to be seen in a relative term. I agree that 26% is a very high tariff. We are not expecting such a high tariff. But when we are looking into the tariff, reciprocal tariff on some of our competing countries, we are in a much comfortable situation. So while we agree that initially the demand may take a hit, all the importers will be looking into which will be the most competitive country to place the order. But in number of the sectors, since China, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, all are who are our competitors in many of the labor-intensive sectors are now subject to high tariff. Some of the business will flow to India also. Secondly, we have the advantage of early mover. We are already negotiating BTA with the US. And if we are able to complete it quickly, we can get a relief from the reciprocal tariff probably much earlier than any other country if they also want to engage with the US. So it's not entirely negative. Of course, I agree 26% is a very high tariff. Probably this tariff, which may result in retaliatory tariff by some of the country, may also reduce the pace of the global trade. But it is not that it is worse than what we were expecting.
Right. Mr. Sahai, the other point is, while it may take long to transition, do you also think that India could actually become a very competitive player in the industries that we just talked about? Because, one would look inwards and perhaps many other countries would turn to India.
No, absolutely. Right now, we are only talking about the opportunity which will come into the US because India comparatively will have a lower tariff as against many of our competitors. We have to see when these competitors they retaliate, whether the 50% additional tariff which has been imposed will go to 100% by the US. So there will be more opportunity. Secondly, when they also put tariff on the US, whether market will be open for India, that's also an opportunity. The short point which I'm making is that, of course, such high tariffs will definitely dent the demand. Initially, we also expect the US to announce massive income tax cuts so that the purchasing power of the resident goes up. But in long term, we are of the view that since we will be definitely concluding the BTA very shortly, we have an advantageous position in the entire situation.
I'll talk about China, which has been the biggest, biggest pain point for Indian exporters. The tariff on China have gone up from 20% to 55%. Assuming that they'll settle somewhere between 40 to 50% when the final negotiations take over, which are the categories in India which would benefit because of these extraordinary high tariffs on China?
Likely to gain much in apparel, footwear, gems and jewelry, electronics, chemicals, plastics, where China is one of our competitors. We are not only just looking into the China, we are also looking into the other countries who are the competitors. So in all these fields, we are definitely a gainer. We are also in the process of making a detailed analysis of the US imports and how the situation will turn up, looking into the various reciprocal tariff which has been imposed to give us a bigger, clear picture. But the short point which we are making is that by and large, if I'm looking into at the macro level, probably we are a gainer, though in some of the sectors, we may also be hit in the process because if you look into the textile sector, Turkey with have 10% tariff will have an advantage over India. So in some of places, probably we may lose business to some of the country, but overall, this will be positive for you.
I'll also like to draw your attention to gems and jewelry, because in India, the gems and jewelry segment is that you import, you polish them, you fit the jewelry, and then you export. How exactly would tariff work here? Because when you are importing, you're exporting back also. So this tariff, if it comes on gems and jewelry, I'm just trying to understand what will change for the industry.
Point is that so far as the imports are concerned, there is no change. Even if on the import the tariff is there, For export purposes, they are instruments which allow you to import at zero duty. So what has changed that earlier, for example, in the jewelry, the duty was 5%. Now the duty will move to 26% for India. Initially to 10% on 5th of April, and from 9th of April it will be 26%. So you move from 25% to 26%. But China and Hong Kong, they will move from 20% to 54%. So you have 28% advantage on any value product where for gems and jewelry, smartwatches, the value is very high. 28% makes a lot of changes. In fact, it may also impact the consumer demand. But if the consumer demand bounce back with the cut in the income tax, probably we will getting much more market in the gem and jewelry sector, because some of the competitors like Thailand also is subject to higher tariff than India.
Okay, Mr. Sahai, great to have you today on ET Now. Thank you so much for your time as always. Let's also try and analyze.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.